ओके गाइस वेलकम। आज हम बात करेंगे अवंती के बारे में। आज हम पॉडकास्ट कर रहे हैं, डेट कास्ट कर रहे हैं अवंती नागराल के साथ। और अवंती नागराल मई 2022 की यूट्यूब कंट्रोवर्सी रैंकिंग्स में नंबर 2 रह चुकी हैं। नंबर 1 आपके भाई खुद थे। बट आई हैड अ ग्रेट कॉन्वर्सेशन विद अवंती। ये हमारा पहला इवॉल्व्ड डेट कास्ट एपिसोड था और हमने एक डेढ़ घंटे की कॉन्वर्सेशन अवंती के साथ सुबह 11 बजे बिल्कुल सेंट्रल पार्क के बीचों बीच, यहाँ से लोग निकल रहे हैं, पूछ रहे हैं कि कर क्या रहे हैं लौंडा लौंडी, यहाँ कुछ प्रपोजल होने वाला है। हमने एक प्रॉपर कॉन्वर्सेशन करी एंड आई हैड वन ऑफ द बेस्ट टाइम्स रिकॉर्डिंग अ डेट कास्ट, इवन बेटर देन राज शमानी, जस्ट फॉर द रिकॉर्ड। राज का एपिसोड ऐसा ही था थोड़ा। नो ऑफेंस राज, आई लव यू। But yeah, man, I'm so excited for you to watch this. I know a lot of people come in with a lot of preconceptions about Avanti कि हाँ अवंती ऐसी अवंती वैसी है, but तुम्हारा भाई भी ऐसा वैसा है, तुम्हें पता नहीं है क्या? तुम्हारे भाई के बारे में भी लोग बकवास बोलते हैं। पॉइंट मेरे चैनल का और मेरी एनर्जी का, जो कुछ भी मेरी वाइब का जो भी पॉइंट है, मैं इंटेलेक्चुअली नहीं बोल रहा है बात, मैं आपको बहुत ही एक फंडामेंटल सेंस में बात बोल रहा हूं। मैं जज तब करूंगा जब कॉन्वर्सेशन खत्म हो जाएगी। और मैं तुम्हें भी यही बोलता हूं कि सुनो सबकी यार, क्या जरूरत है अपने प्री कंसेप्शंस को हर जगह घुसेड़ने की। अगर तुम नहीं निकाल सकते तो मत देखो कॉन्वर्सेशन, पर अगर निकाल सकते हो तो साइड रखो अपने आइडियाज और सुनो खुले दिमाग से। क्या पता कुछ नया सीखने को ही मिल जाए। दैट्स द ब्यूटी। इफ दैट इज समथिंग आई कैन डू, आई एम वेरी हैप्पी। But that is not the intent of this podcast. This podcast was just me and Avanti having fun, just bonding. I had a great time with her. She's an incredible woman, super talented, super hardworking, really hardworking. And I hope I get to do one more with her. Avanti, if you're watching, we'll do one more episode soon. But up until then, go straight into Datecast 3 with Avanti Nagral. What do you think of the location?
Pretty.
Have you been here before?
I don't think so, actually.
You remember the rock I was telling you I cried on after Strawberry Fields? Was that rock right there? I have a picture sitting right there just crying.
Insert कर ले.
From 2011. हाँ, इसलिए तो बोल रहा हूँ बाद में plug करने के लिए. From
gosh.
2011, I think. That was the first time I'd come to New York and I had no idea I'd be here
Yeah.
for such a long time. Yeah, मेरा कभी plan नहीं था. I was never going to be here. I had a career trajectory in India, very set out and whatever. I just never
आप क्या
liked
करना
it.
चाहते थे वहाँ पर?
मैं नहीं करना चाहता था, मेरे parents करवाना चाहते थे.
क्या करवाना चाहते थे वहाँ?
Accountancy. I would have been an accountant.
Nice.
A chartered accountant.
Nice.
Which in India means very different
Yes.
from an accountant, right?
Yes.
And so I finished my company secretaryship, which is like the legal part of the CA situation.
yeah.
I never finished CA. I got admitted to Columbia halfway through.
ठीक है.
And then I was like, भाड़ में गई ये चीज़. I was like done with this shit. Did you always want to be a musician?
No.
You want to be an actress?
No.
अच्छा फिर?
For the longest time, I wanted to do something like I wanted to be a doctor.
हाँ.
Then I wanted to be in the global health space.
हाँ.
And I became obsessed with the idea when I was 15 to combine global health and music somehow.
हाँ.
Because I have had a lot of health issues in my life. Like I was born with a heart condition. When I was 15, I had a brain virus and I almost lost my eyesight. और अलग बीच में छोटे मोटे
ये किस टाइप का brain virus? वो cabbage वाला?
cabbage वाला नहीं. It was like a latent brain virus. और उसकी वजह से I basically, they called it optic neuritis. I lost my eyesight temporarily for a long time. Yeah, it was very intense. और उसके बाद मेरा memory loss भी हुआ था. But the only thing that I like remembered was music. So for me at 15, I was like, music equals healing. And it's something I've done my whole life. Bhajans, Indian classical music, choir, everything, any and everything related to music. But it was always कि करेंगे, passion है करेंगे, but job के लिए कुछ और करेंगे.
ठीक.
And I've always been really acutely aware of inequity in health.
हाँ.
क्योंकि जब मैं 9 साल की थी मैं इंडिया शिफ्ट हुई और मेरे सिचुएशन में बहुत हेल्थ प्रॉब्लम्स थे. बट वहाँ पे शिफ्ट होने के बाद पता चलता है कि कितने इनइक्विटी होते हैं.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
You know.
बिल्कुल.
In the sense, when you're 9, you're really annoying. So you ask a lot of questions, and I feel like a lot of my friends who grew up in Bombay become sensitized. So they don't see the extreme wealth poverty divide in the same way.
200%.
Right? But बाहर से आते हो, ये क्या है? यहाँ पे ये, you know, and it's a lot to take in. And I realized it was a lot for my family and people around me, because I would question everybody, and they'd be like, how do we answer a 9-year-old? Right? So
कि उसको गरीबी poverty का proper depth कैसे समझाएं?
हाँ, exactly.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
और ये inequity का depth कैसे समझाएं कि ये structurally क्यों है?
Right.
Right? In all of these spaces, education में
Feminist
inequity क्यों
literature
है?
समझा रहे हैं बता के 9-year-old को. Right.
ये क्यों है? So I understood from a young age कि a lot of the reason that I am fine today is because of the access I had. मेरे family में मेरे सब grandparents doctors हैं, so I had a lot of family access, and I had a lot of socioeconomic class access. Uski wajah se I am where I'm alive, quite
Sure.
literally, right? Very many people in similar positions with a lot of the conditions I had would not be alive today.
Don't survive, right?
So, recognizing that, I was just like, okay, I want to do something about this. I don't know what that means. So I was really passionate about health as a kid, and I was like, what can you do as a teenager? So tabhi I used to do a lot of stuff in CPR, first aid, organ donation, mental health. What are things you can talk about when you don't have to be a medical professional?
Right.
Everyone should know CPR. Everyone should know first aid. Organ donation, what is it? It's basically consent. और उसके बारे में हम बात नहीं करते. And so for the longest time, मुझे लगा कि I want to do something in the global health space and somehow combine music with it. शायद music therapy, ये वो. And then when I was 17, 18,
You were still in India.
still in India. I took a gap year before going to college क्योंकि मैं तभी professional theatre करती थी India में. And I had the opportunity to play the lead role in this show called Agnes of God. So I was playing Agnes. I was playing a nun. And the show is actually about child abuse, mental health, all of these things. But 4 days before opening night, we were at the director's house practicing और हमें एक कॉल मिलता है. किसी बंदे ने बोला, hello, हम FIR डाल रहे तेरे खिलाफ. And
Director के against.
हाँ, and we thought that it was some sort of a joke, but it turned out to not be a joke. There was this guy who wanted money, power, fame, nasha, whatever he wanted. And so, as a result, we were...
ये कहानी इतनी complicated हुई कैसे? This began with health conditions and it has come down to the underworld in the last life. Like, ये कौन सी कहानी होती है अवंती?
Because ये कहानी की वजह से I am doing what I'm doing today, and I care about
Does
what I care
anybody
today.
know about this?
Yeah, I've
Have
spoken
you-
about it in like
Okay.
small doses, but not like properly.
So I'm interested because this
Yeah.
is a very interesting story.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so
Huh.
we're told that we're going to be arrested, ये वो. So we thought it's a joke at first, कि कोई prank play कर रहा है. But no, he got the Home Ministry involved. Everyone was involved. Like अगर आपको interest है,
हाँ.
Google पे जाके type in Agnes of God controversy. Don't even put in my name. Don't even put in India. Article on article on article on this whole situation. And that year, this was 2015, there was a lot of this ban culture happening. तो एक Pakistani artist आने वाले थे tour के लिए, got cancelled.
Do we know which one?
I don't remember
Acha,
who it
acha.
was. I mean, we can look it up. There were a
Sure.
bunch of people, like a bunch of stuff was getting banned in the art world, basically. And it was India में English theatre, very niche, right? But those 4 nights, we got banned from all Christian donor-backed venues because this guy had pull in that world.
Why did he dislike your play so much?
I don't understand. So this play, for context, it's a 1982 Broadway show that got converted into a movie, which won the Oscars. The Vatican even talks about it being like a beautiful play about miracles.
Sure.
But ये बंदा कुछ भी कह रहा था. He's like, you are committing blasphemy. None of the actors are Catholic. India is not ready for this. He just used any and every angle. मेरे ख्याल से he wanted money, fame and power. Because sub media.
But does it not sound like he had money, fame and power अगर वो Home Ministry phone कर रहा है और सब कुछ कर रहा है?
नहीं, because he was just able to leverage this fact.
That's so interesting.
It was very interesting.
So this was coming from, was this a Christian fellow who was protesting?
Yeah, so he was the head of this organization called the Catholic Secular Forum, and he was protesting. And so a lot of the venues, like a lot of the theatres in India, are Christian donor-backed because they were established during the British Raj.
Sure.
So many of them pulled out. So then our first opening night we had at NCPA instead in Mumbai on a Monday night.
That's not going to work.
English theatre is already niche. Kaun aane wala hai?
हाँ.
And initially our seating was 500 people, but they only had the 1500 seater. तो हम सोच रहे थे अरे कोई आने वाला नहीं ये वो. 15,000 people showed up.
What? The story keeps getting wilder. Shit.
Because they were so interested कि इस play में है क्या? इतना क्या है? So we had 80 Marathi speaking policemen in the audience, making sure no riots broke out. The 2 days before, we had to go to, I forget, I think the minister at the time was Shaina Anseed, to her home and like have a conversation and sort things out. So the other two actresses, it's a 3-woman show. The other 2 actresses, one was 70, one was 50, and I was
18.
I just turned 18. So because I just turned 18, I was no longer a minor. So हर रोज मुझे फोन आ रहे हैं मीडिया से, तेरी जान खतरे में है, तुझे क्या बोलना है इस बात के बारे में?
तेरी जान खतरे में थी इस चक्कर में?
मतलब they were saying they want to imprison everybody, arrest all of us. It was crazy.
God
It was like a mad
damn it.
scene. And usually you're not allowed to film theater,
Huh.
but this was filmed as a legal document.
Oh God.
So it's crazy, okay? My first stage debut, and it was like mad. And that changed my life in many ways because I realized the power of art. Previously, I had been like, oh, there's power in this combination, ye wo, you know, agar iske baare mein baat karna hai, you know, there's power. Like, no, art itself is fucking powerful. It makes a statement. This is some tiny ass play in a massive country in a language and genre people don't give a shit about. But this is moving people in some way. And it has power. And so for me, that was the pivotal point where I shifted from I want to be in the global health space, to I want to be a full-time artist. And the platform that comes with that, wo awaaz jo aati hai, and quite for me, literally the awaaz as a singer, but also the extended awaaz, the way in which there's so many people who are voiceless in this world.
Right.
And if you have a platform through art, you're able to spotlight those voices in a very different way. Because wo dil ki baat hoti hai, right? When you talk about something, it matters, it moves people.
Of course, yeah.
But also when you create music, when you create art about something, you move someone emotionally.
It also informs you of the point. So, I'm in the business of giving my opinion, sadly. It's not as cool as I thought it'd be, but it's whatever, right?
Yeah.
And I've realized that there are so many things I cannot say because they're not delivered
I'm gonna have a
properly.
bite.
Bro, by all means, dude.
Thank
You
you.
should also be drinking that tea.
I'll try
Okay,
a
we've
sip.
got more tea for you now. Okay.
I'll
brilliant.
try a sip.
I've realized that there is something to be said about not speaking something directly as an opinion giver and including it in a form that's more artsy. So
This is really good, by the way.
this
I'm on a mission to find the world's best cheesecake.
and
And-
how much further up on the ranking do you think is this one?
This is like a solid 3.5 on 5.
I relate to that because I have my missions personally to find the best ice cream in the world.
Love it.
And I think my tongue was particularly made to taste ice cream because I can taste so many different categories. And I'm not smart food-wise. Like, I'm dumb as hell. But when I eat ice cream, I can go, okay, softness, coldness, sugar, like all of those categories. How do the flavors mix? How is the base coming along? Like, it's so automatic to me. That's my X-Men superpower. Is
I
ice
love
cream.
it.
Guys, सुनो आओ तुम्हें बताते हैं खास बात तुम्हारा भाई ऑथर है ये बात तो तुम सब जान चुके हो जब तुमसे कोई पूछता है तुम्हारा भाई क्या करता है तो तुम बताओगे प्रखर एजुकेटर है और ऑथर है ना ओके बट हमने इस बुक के साथ एक बहुत इंटरेस्टिंग चीज करी है मेरे को ना बहुत टाइम से विजुअल एक कीड़ा दबा हुआ था तुम मेरे थंबनेल्स में देख सकते हो जब तक मैंने अपने थंबनेल्स पे ध्यान दिया ना हमेशा मेरे को उसमें कुछ एक कटैश चीज चाहिए तो इसीलिए आई हैव कम आउट विद एन एक्सक्लूसिव लिमिटेड एडिशन डीप प्रवचन एडिशन कवर ऑफ डोंट शट अप जिसकी सिर्फ 1000 कॉपी बिकेंगी और वो 1000 कॉपी जब ये बुक बेस्ट सेलर हो जाएगी ना महा वैल्यूबल होगा उसका पर्पस ये है कि सिर्फ मेरे प्यारे न्यारे दोस्त भाई बंधु जो अफोर्ड कर सकते हैं थोड़ी महंगी किताब क्योंकि वो लिमिटेड एडिशन है वो लें ये किताब मेरे ख्याल से 699 ऐसा कुछ है पता नहीं मेरी टीम डिसाइड करती है कॉस्ट सारी कंसिडर करके बट दिस इज अ कंप्लीट लिमिटेड एडिशन जिसमें हमने जो पूरा कवर है फ्रॉम स्टार्ट टू फिनिश प्रखर भाई की इंस्ट्रक्शंस पे डिजाइन हुआ प्रखर भाई ने मैनिफेस्ट किया मैं आपको याद दिलाने आया हूं कि आप जा सकते हो don'tshut.in पर बाकी मिलते हैं हम अगले ब्रेक के बाद
But yes, so you're right about that there is something to be said about art being the medium of communication instead of just your voice being the medium of communication. And they're
100%.
slightly different.
They're very different. The other thing that really influenced me to what I do today. So this was my pivot for being like full-time performing artist. That's why even all through college, I was studying psychology and global health.
Right.
And then when the Berkeley program started with Harvard, then I was like really excited to do both. But I was performing all through college, starting to write music, everything. And I knew I would do that full time. Then pandemic hit. And then obviously that world changed.
Right.
And I used to do a lot of public speaking before. So I thought YouTube is an interesting way to, extend that version. And the things I cared about, education, sex education, menstruation, जिन चीज़ों के बारे में हम बात नहीं करते, right? And I realized, despite the fact that I have lived exactly half my life in the US, even when I lived in India, हर summer, हर winter मैं यहाँ पे आती थी. So I've, at this point, lived like 12 years in both places, very aware. Despite that, a lot of my mindset shifted when I came for college.
Why?
Because I was open to new exposure and perspective that I hadn't been in India.
What does that mean? Give it more tangible words. I don't understand. I'm dumb.
नहीं, मैं क्या बोल रही हूँ कि when you have an education in many different institutions, kabhi you're exposed, even within India, you're exposed to difference. And I think that's extremely important. I see too many students who will come abroad or even stay in India and they'll hang out with people from the same city, same ilake, same
Familiarity.
Familiarity.
People love familiarity.
No, but the whole point is you put yourself out of your comfort zone. You befriend people from different races, different backgrounds, different classes, all types of different exposure. People who are different from you politically, different from you, because that's what, then you understand the world and you're not just living in your own bubble. And as a result, I don't know if you felt this way, but a lot of the language we used in schools in India it's like extremely racist, extremely.
Like, what do you mean?
Like what examples?
Of course.
People would throw around certain words or like words that are not okay, right? People would throw around the word retard, for example, which obviously is a word that
At this
should
point
not
has been
use.
reclaimed by.
It's been reclaimed by
The
folks
retards.
with it's been reclaimed by folks with
Yeah.
disabilities, but the same way in which you don't use the N word, right?
Right,
The same way in
right.
which you don't. They're just like simple things that you didn't even register were wrong.
Hmm.
Now, how you use it and whether it's reclaimed or not, that's a whole different conversation, right? But just registering people around me and a lot of our peer group was extremely homophobic.
Oh,
right?
for sure.
So there's like enough examples of that. And I think like my exposure to understanding like what proper sex education, what proper like social education is, came a lot from being in college here. A lot of my mindset was challenged in a different way. And that's beautiful. And mere khayal se, why the fuck should you need a US education to do that?
Of course.
Why is it that
But
we
yeah,
don't?
like logistically, dekh.
Huh.
So you raise a very good point, right? You go to different crowds, you get socialized differently.
Yeah.
For me, the same stuff about language happened very differently
Huh.
because, and I don't blame myself. Okay, I'm 21, I'm fresh off the boat, I'm trying to figure my shit out
You're not
here.
21 right now.
No, not right now, but when I came here, and I remember what happened was I put up a post with something to do about my friends in which I'd used a word I've since learned is not a word I'm okay to use in these contexts, right? And that was one of many instances where people went ham at me for using a word that I should not be using.
Exactly.
And I learned very quickly here you cannot use those words. But what I learned on top, a meta virtue that I gathered on top of that was never be apologetic. Can we also get in the picture?
No.
This is fine. The meta virtue I learned was never be apologetic, and that came from a different mindset. Like, you know how in India, when we talk to our professors, we are so used to saying sir. It took me a semester and a half to get off the habit of saying sir and ask myself to be excused every time and apologize and like be all like, can I go to the bathroom kind of bullshit, or oh, do I have to go to class, or the conditioning in schools in India was so different as far as the institution was involved. That changed for me, and then it extended to the point where I was like, I'm okay playing by someone else's rules, but to let them be the ultimate enforcer on me, I'm not okay
No,
with.
I understand.
Right? So because that felt like giving up control. Why I mentioned the first instance about
The word
using,
you
yeah,
used,
right, was because अरे मेरे को educate करना, मेरे को बता,
वही।
report मत कर मेरे को Instagram
वही।
पे, हाँ,
नहीं, वही मैं कह
हाँ.
रही हूँ. So that's what a lot of people have an issue ki, especially this whole idea of like the the culture around. I mean, I'm gonna be straight and say it. A lot of
Yeah.
people are like, Indian men on the internet are trash. People say stuff like that. Okay, I understand where you're coming from. Today, everybody has access to the internet. You can educate yourself. But at the same time, not everybody has the same exposure.
Right.
And not everyone has the same privilege to exposure. So rather than immediately saying, acha nahi hai, trash hai, ye wo, educate someone. Now, if beyond them being educated, they're going to be assholes, that's a whole different story, right? But we feel like, no, we should be, everyone should be politically aware, everyone should be this, that. I understand. We have access to that. But where's that access coming from? Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's coming from socioeconomics.
It's coming from socioeconomics, and it's coming from what I like to call social education, right?
Socialization,
हाँ,
as it's called in the
socialization or social education. जो
right,
भी
हाँ.
कि किस तरीके से, how do we understand issues around the LGBTQIA plus community, around gender, around these types of things, right? One idea is कि, or race, or whatever it might be, one idea is then you learn it intellectually, you learn it in theory, you learn it in practice, but then it just stays in these echo chambers. How do you break down those things to be very simple? And how do you make sure that everybody has exposure to that? You tell me, तुझे पता नहीं था. And
right.
I'm sure you have like 20 friends who probably still don't know.
Of course.
But अगर आप बताते उनको, वो नहीं use करेंगे यार.
I know what you mean. I know what you mean. Right.
And so the idea is exposure के मामले से, what I find tends to happen is we have this whole situation where we're like, we learn as people, ki, this is not okay, this is bad, this is whatever, and we grow as people, right? But then we sometimes forget where we came from.
Right. And
You
then
know?
everybody else has
And then
not had
everybody
the
else
same
has not had the same exposure.
Yeah.
So for me, a huge thing for me personally, like for example, when the whole Roe v. Wade situation happened,
Oh
right?
my
And that's
gosh.
a whole other.
That's a whole other fuck job. We should not
We should
get
not
into
bring
this
up.
conversation.
No,
yeah.
but I made a video
Huh.
which was basically like very simple. It was like satire where somebody was asking like stupid questions. Of like a male version of myself was asking me stupid questions and being like, I don't live in US, why should I care? You know, things like that.
Well,
Because no, but
but why should someone if they're
why
not living
should someone care
if they're not living in the US? Yeah.
Fair point.
Right.
Number one, most countries' laws when it comes to these types of things follow a US precedent. right?
India does not.
No,
Huh.
no, it does.
Achha?
So in 1971, we had the Medical Termination of Pregnancy Act founded. In 1973 was Roe v. Wade. So technically, we were more progressive. However, when the MTP was, initiated, it was in the case for victims of rape and very specific situations. Only in 2021 was it amended that it can be more elective, and it was extended beyond 20 weeks to 24 weeks. And the reason cited was because of Roe v. Wade, right?
Acha.
And even when in 1971 you had this MTP, they used the foundational basis of a lot of progressive states in the US. I understand, right? For whatever reason. I'm not saying the US should be the global power. In fact, that's shifting and we'll see what the word looks like.
Sure.
But the fact is, people use these.
Theek.
And I don't think, hopefully, India is not going to change its laws based on this, but there are definitely countries who are going to be like, US ne ye kiya, so let's have these situations. And when things like this happen, right, even if the law specifically doesn't affect you, it affects people. It affects humanity.
But yeah, frankly, Avanti, I get like, at this point, it's the same shit. I don't like, I never liked Americans commenting on India.
Yeah.
Fuck off, you don't live there, you have no skin in the game, you don't know what's happening in Kashmir, right? And this is like a very common phenomenon on college campuses where they go out in Israel-Palestinian protests happening every 3 weeks or so. And I knew very early on this is not what's going to happen to India, because they're going to have like a very non-skin in the game, they don't know what is up, and they're going to comment out of their ass just because they read a few textbooks. One. Two, in reverse, now that I feel this is more home, I get so pissed when people who have no idea what is happening in America are just like, सब कुछ छोड़ो, पहले हम protest करेंगे, Roe v. Wade, पहले हम protest करेंगे, Trump presidency, so on and so forth. And I'm like, you are not, like, as an idea, it is not wrong. But for instance, what is happening in India right now?
Yeah.
Do something about that. Like, start there.
No, I agree.
There is this elite bubbling.
I agree. No, I'm not saying that you should have necessarily opinions on the laws, but understand the implication that that law has on humanity, and make sure that stuff around you is not forcing that. I'll give you an example.
Right.
When it comes to abortion, yes, we have progressive laws in India, but can people actually enforce that? How many clinics are in rural areas?
Right.
How many people can actually access it who don't live in cities, who are not from high socioeconomic classes? Like, understand what the problems are with these things, and if you care, in your own backyard, in your own neighborhood, how can you impact? And that I realized from early on, right? Ki, what does that look like, and how do you... my point with all of this is just, if you've had access, like you've been here for 5 years, I've been here for half my life.
Right.
If you've had access to knowledge, ideas, power, whatever that you think is useful to be able to progress as a country, as a world, don't gatekeep that information, yaar. Like the reason I started with education content in addition to music is because there's so much gatekeeping around that.
किस सेंस में gatekeeping है?
कि कोलंबिया कैसे जाना है, हार्वर्ड कैसे जाना है, कैसे जाना है, किसको पता होता है? जो अच्छे स्कूल में जाते हैं, शहर में रहते हैं, और जिनके पास पैसे हैं ताकि वो कॉलेज काउंसलिंग जा सकें.
और वो शार्क काउंसलर जिसको पता है, अरे तुम यूनिवर्सिटी ऑफ मैनचेस्टर क्यों नहीं जाते?
बट वो गेटकीपिंग इन्फॉर्मेशन क्यों होना चाहिए? क्योंकि इंडिया में हम हमारे नीट के हिसाब से जाते हैं, जेईई के हिसाब से जाते हैं कि एक एग्जाम तो लोगों को लगता है सैट में अगर मुझे फुल मिलते तो मुझे मिलेंगे. नहीं, that's not how the system works. And there's so much gatekeeping around that information, because all the information that's there, like what you read on websites that are in English, is in hi-fi English,
right,
जो लोगों को समझ ही नहीं आएंगी.
Right.
Or it's done in a way that like you have to grow up with that system or do your own research. I'm just giving examples, right?
नहीं, मैं समझ गया तेरी बात. मैं समझ गया. I get it. This makes for beautiful date conversation, by the way. All these serious political issues are exactly what I thought I'd talk about. No, you were super right.
पेड़ पौधों के बारे में बात
Because bro, मेरे को ही नहीं पता था यार. I was telling you, अभी रास्ते में कि मैं I came to Columbia because मेरे को CA नहीं करना था, right?
Fair.
And I remember I'd already gotten into NYU. NYU is stuff you hear about because you'll hear that in Gossip Girl, whatever, right?
Yeah.
NYU is New York University. The name's right there. Columbia is something I'd never heard of because I'd never thought of coming here, right? So when I was applying, I thought कि ऐसा करना है अपने को, because we are going for an undergrad late, we'll only go to the best schools. So I only applied like Oxford, Cambridge kind of situations, Harvard, Columbia, only these schools.
Nice.
And since I was applying later, most of these schools were going to say no. So I'd gotten a few acceptances in the UK, few in the US, and I was set to go to NYU. I was like, New York University, bro, New York में रहेंगे ना अपना. So when Columbia came, I was like, क्या करना है अपने को Columbia का? हम तो NYU जा रहे हैं. And a friend of mine sat me down. He's like, are you out of your mind? Do you understand the difference? Like, do you know what you're saying? Do you know what Columbia is? And this is 2 days before I said yes to Columbia. 1 month before I flew out for Columbia. When I learned about Columbia. I just applied as an accident. Columbia had emailed me halfway through my application saying, probably don't apply to a regular school. Apply to this school we have, which is the school I went to, right? And I was like, हाँ कर दो, हमें क्या, हमें कौन सा Columbia जाना है? That is how I was thinking throughout. And also, I have a particular beef against college counselors because they and more than one of they took time out to absolutely destroy my hopes when I was trying to come to school here. I remember one of them looked me in the face, said, "तुम अपनी जिंदगी बर्बाद कर लोगे." And I was like, "तू कौन सा होता है बे?" I tore his card. उसके ऑफिस से निकलते ही like almost because I have anger whatever. फेंक के चला गया मैं. I was like, तेरे को पता होना चाहिए. I'm going to make this happen. So many of the counselors were like, "Why don't you try for a mediocre university?"
I don't like that. I mean, there are some counselors that are incredible,
Huh.
and there are some that are not.
Right.
And I'm sorry that you had experiences with ones that are not.
All of them were like
Yeah.
that, yeah. I had like 3 of those guys, dude. I was so pissed because I was like, my SAT scores were phenomenal. It was
Yeah.
like a 2300 or 2400. I was like, why do I apply to a mediocre university?
Yeah.
And what am I going to do at 21 at a mediocre university?
Yeah.
What are you saying? But later people told me they have tied up interests with some universities and they want you to apply to them kind of gibberish. So I don't know. I was like, main haath jhad lunga. I've never spoken about this in the last 5 years to a lot of people. But now that you brought it up, I was like, fuck it.
No, but
Take a dig.
exactly. The point with all of this is, if you have exposure,
Huh.
or I strongly believe if you have privilege, you have it. Fine, own it. What are you doing about it? How can you use that to create impact?
Right.
Right?
How can you share it with the community?
Yeah,
Yep.
there's 2 ways. Either you hide it your whole life, get really ashamed of it, and then you don't do anything, or you just abuse it.
Right.
Or you're like, okay, fuck, it exists, yes. And everybody has privileges of some kind.
Of course.
You may not have socioeconomic privilege, you may have family privilege in a way that somebody else does. You may not have that, you may have health privilege in a way that somebody else doesn't, right?
Right.
हर बंदे के पास कोई ना कोई तो privilege है.
हाँ.
And it doesn't matter whatever that means, right? And if you're hyper aware that you are from privilege, when I moved to India, I was hyper aware that I was from privilege, right?
तेरे को
Because you
adjustment
see
में
it.
issue हुए थे India के? Were you too young for it?
I don't think I was too young for it. I don't think adjustment में ऐसे कुछ culture shock, because luckily my parents, I visited every summer when I lived here.
अच्छा.
And I think because I was involved with like Indian classical music and things that grounded me in rich culture and heritage, if that makes sense, it wasn't that bad. But जब मैं पहले shift हुई, I went to an international school क्योंकि हमारा mindset था कि हम 2-3 साल में वापस आएंगे. Then I shifted to an ICSE school, which I enjoyed because I actually enjoyed studying all of that. But the culture shock was less कि हराम ये क्या हो रहा है, and it was more
ये सड़क क्यों टूटी हुई है?
हाँ नहीं सच में.
Right, infrastructural
And it
level.
wasn't even like सड़क क्यों टूटी हुई है सड़क. I'm like, why is it broken? Why does no one give a fuck?
हाँ सही बात है.
तो हम क्या करें इसके बारे में? People are dying. And
Such
why
an
does
American
no one...
mindset. I love that. हम क्या करें इसके बारे में? इतने privilege का क्या होगा? I love that. Yes.
But it's true, right?
हाँ नहीं, I agree.
And it's not from a savior perspective at all. It's
Right.
like genuinely what's the work?
It's from a responsibility
yeah.
perspective.
कि इसमें हमारी जिम्मेदारी क्या है? And like you said, you start small. That's when I was a teenager. I was like, मैं क्या कर सकती हूँ? लोग मेरी बात समझेंगे नहीं, सुनेंगे नहीं. What are basics? What do I care about? Health. Am I a doctor? No. What can I do something in? We should at least know first aid. We should at least know CPR. So I ran CPR training programs in several schools across Bombay. Because
You're very enterprising.
it's something I enjoy. Yes.
Were you always this energetic and enterprising?
I think so. And a lot of that
What
comes
is
from...
peak energy for Avanti? Like, what is a day when she's like, मैं थक गई आज? What does that look like?
I don't know. if you deprive me of sleep, then I am
Yeah.
gone.
You need 8 hours.
At this point, I don't know how much sleep. This past month, I've not been having 8 hours. But my point is like,
Go on.
मैं कोई नशा नहीं करती ये वो, right? So when
अभी देखना हाँ.
क्या?
नहीं मैं मजाक कर
Oh,
रहा हूँ. I was just
no,
joking.
no. I mean, I'm very particular about my voice. So I'm.
Of course,
You know,
yeah,
I
you
don't,
won't mess with that.
I won't mess with that. So even food-wise, I am very particular about what I eat, so therefore nothing else.
Right.
But if I am exhausted, I am the most delirious person in the world. Like my friends are like, tired you is like what drunk person would
So
be.
you're annoying when you're tired?
I'm not annoying, I'm just like...
Avanti, now that I have a memory of your laughter, I know exactly what that might look like. I can imagine that in my head straight. Just Avanti, eyes splitting both ways, just going... I can see that. That gets to it
Oh
sometimes.
God, and so it's very, very interesting. But I wanted to ask you this actually because I was mentioning, given you do pravachan and everything, and your work. I was very much younger, art focused, right? Music, dance,
right,
arts, performing arts, because that was my world. Media was always fascinating to me, but I didn't know what the world was like. If you asked me till 3 years ago, if you told me, tu YouTuber banne wali hai, I was like, pagal hai. Because I had no idea what that world was like.
Agreed.
When you watch a movie in cinema in India, उसके पहले क्या आता है?
National anthem.
और एक और चीज़ आती है.
Mukesh wali story.
हाँ, Mukesh वाली story, right?
हाँ,
That
हाँ.
anti-smoking
Right,
story.
right.
And I remember watching that growing up, and I'm like, this is really badly made. कोई इसके बारे में like because depending on where you used to see it, it was dubbed differently. It was like not badly made, and I'm like, कौन इससे impact हो रहा है?
हाँ.
And on my gap year.
But let's be honest, अगर हमें
Yeah.
आज तक नाम याद है मुकेश का तो impact तो हो रहे
Of
थे.
course,
हाँ.
impact तो हो रहा है. It's in your mind,
Yeah.
and it's very smart to put it in right before a movie because most people psychologically when they go to watch a movie, they're going with an escapist mindset. कि मैं यहाँ पे जाके मेरा मन like I'll turn off my brain and I'm escaping from reality. So they're already in this zone where something is subliminally working on them.
Oh, shit.
That if they watch this anti-smoking thing while they're doing something busy
Huh.
and they're intentionally watching it, they actually will not get as impacted by it.
Oh shit. हाँ फिर.
So I was like, कौन देखता है इससे क्या impact हो रहा है ये वो. On my gap year, in addition to like the theater and music stuff, I was helping Harvard set up their public health research center in Bombay.
अच्छा.
And one of the primary researchers who was like helping set it up is a tobacco researcher. So I went to her and I'm like, listen, is ad se kya ho raha hai? Like, has there been any impact? And she showed me all these longitudinal studies that had showed that this ad had led to a reduce in the purchasing of tobacco. Specifically like the kinds of cigarettes they show in, that's how they were able to make the links back. And I was like, if something this badly made can have even minimal impact, what happens when it's good? What happens when it's well produced? And I then started intentionally noticing things around me. So I saw any anti-smoking campaigns in the US were focused on, you are screwing up your lungs. This is what you are going to do. This is what's going to happen to you. And all the ones, Mukesh ki kahani, yeah, all the other ones they started showing were like, तेरी माँ को क्या होने वाला है, तेरी बेटी को क्या होने वाला है. You know, and you were able to then see like the individualistic versus collectivist culture in like media. And so it was always fascinating to me. So a huge passion for me, like as a long-term thing, was how do you create socially conscious media? Yes, climate change, consent, like all of these things, but how do you do it in a way that people actually give a shit, right? Because not everyone's gonna be intellectual or exposed to that.
Sure.
And that was always at the back of my mind. And then when the pandemic hit and when I started doing YouTube and all of these other things, and I realized there's so many young people who are in school and don't have, again, similar exposure that I knew I had been lucky enough to receive those last few years. But वो फिल्म नहीं देखने जा रहे हैं, वो न्यूज़ तो नहीं देख रहे, टीवी भी नहीं देख रहे, क्या कर रहे हैं?
Swiping.
So अगर ये कर रहे हैं, how do you make sure the messages reach there? So if that means to be able to talk about STIs, I have to learn a dance and do it, I will do it.
STI डांस भी होता है कुछ?
नहीं मतलब
बनाएगी
अगर
तो?
STI के बारे में बात करनी है and you want to catch someone's attention, point करके ऐसे dance करके करना है.
Right.
It's some people are like, oh ये cringe बात है.
हाँ.
नहीं, attention कैसे लेते हैं?
सही बात है.
To make sure that you actually have, like it's, you know this.
Of course I know this.
You know this as in the work you do, you know the first 30 seconds are really important on a long form video. The first 3 seconds are really important on a short form video. All of whatever,
Agreed,
all the
yeah.
things that creators have to know.
Right.
But I saw the beauty in that. And so it was really fascinating. My point with all of this is the world is changing. And how you are able to impact that, like the work you do,
Right.
And the kinds of, when you talk about opinions.
Thank you.
Did you ever imagine कि
ये इतना serious हो जाएगा?
yeah, there was a world in which your rants would hold that power and that value?
That's a very good question. I'll give you a little brief history on that bit. I never thought I'd do this. It was very similar. One of my roommates, Phil, I don't think you've met, guys, you've met him, Phil. He would always say, way before, 2017-18, before any of this
Please
stuff.
try करो नहीं तो मैं पूरा खाने वाली हूँ.
मैं सिर्फ try कर रहा हूँ तेरे लिए ये बाकी, ठीक है? I'm not a big fan of first eating breakfast and 2 eating sweets. Like I'm just not.
Fair.
So, this is for you. Well, he would always say
Thank
you'd be...
you.
Oh, no problem. He would always say you'd be famous. And I'd be like, bro, shut the fuck up. I don't want to be famous. From a very early age, my orientation was always because I knew I speak well. And I'd been getting into trouble since I was 11 in school, and I always getting out because I knew how to talk. I knew for a fact that legally, if I do something, it probably works best for me. If I'm a lawyer, it probably works incredibly well for me. So
that you can apply, yeah?
Thank you guys. Thank you so much. So I always thought that is what I was going to do.
क्या बोला उन्होंने?
कुछ नहीं, वो कह रहा था मेरा जॉब है ऐसे निकालना साइड से गाड़ी. बढ़िया. I started doing YouTube because I was bored. The intent was to go in with a podcast field. And pravachan came only after I realized that when I talk, people listen. Right? So initially I was like, ठीक है. I don't use, like, I've never had this global consciousness mindset up until recently where I've been like, अब मैं कुछ कर रहा हूँ, I should take responsibility of it. अभी तक ये, this was just me having fun on the internet.
Yeah.
This is how I am naturally. If you ask any of these idiots what I do, in my free time when I'm hanging out with them, वो अपने आप rant प्रवचन मोड में चला जाता है. उसको कोई नहीं
Love
रोक सकता. My dad in fact has gotten, he's earned such a liking to this behavior when he's trying to sleep at night, 10, 15, when he's like almost sleepy, he's kind of snoring, he'll be like, Prakhar, मेरे को इसके बारे में कुछ बताओ. And he'd let me rant for 15 minutes, fall asleep to that.
That's so cute.
So this is a very inherent part of my behavior. It started off because my friend once told me, bro, Prakhar, तू बहुत प्रवचन देता है. And I was like, Prakhar के प्रवचन is a brilliant idea.
Yeah.
So I never thought this is going to be this way. In fact, I still struggle to find a way to articulate a lot of what I think about politics and society in my content because I feel I'm too young to be sure of shit. Like very often I'll be sure of an opinion, and that was my history being in America because they teach you to be sure of your political opinion at 18. I was so sure of what I knew. And then I would discover something else and that was incompatible. I had to completely abandon the way I thought immediately. And so I told myself, publicly to commit nahi karunga to a position because then backing off is so much stranger.
Of course.
I'll wait till I'm 35, 40 where I've had enough experience talking to people who actually know jack about politics and don't just get sources from media, right? And maybe I'll have a better opinion. Maybe I'll even be able to contest politically at a certain point.
Also, the whole point is, in my opinion, is you always learn from people around you, sir, right? If you're having conversations, podcasts, doing stuff with people who are experts in their field, we don't know everything, and no matter what,
Sure.
no matter even if you become 35, 40,
Right.
you're not going to know everything about something,
Right.
Right? It's
Right.
all about like constantly making sure you keep updated with all of that.
Right. But I think about it now. Like अब मैं सोचता हूँ कि किस डिग्री तक और यार इतनी इनकम्प्लीट इन्फॉर्मेशन का सीन होता है. सपोज अभी हमें विवेक से बात कर रहे थे हम लोग कि विवेक he tells us something and I repeat that verbatim here. When I'm doing that in that moment in a conversation which is as casual as this, I'm not looking at the veracity of what Vivek says.
Yeah.
Tomorrow, if there is a different angle to that news, I have influenced so many people in a wrong direction.
No, of course.
So so I stick my guns to what I'm extremely sure of.
Yeah.
Which is what people have fondly called psychology. I don't think it's psychology, but whatever. And I'm going to slowly look into learning how to get past that as time goes on. But I'm not sure. My interest was always like writing more about culture, writing more about like, for instance, this one book idea I've been running around with my head forever at this point is taking 10 monumental films that came between 2000 and 2015 in India and how they impacted the Indian psyche.
Yeah.
Like Jab We Met is a prime example of autonomous woman character.
Yeah.
That gave imagination to the Indian feminine psyche in such a novel way. I don't think it existed before because a lot of girls growing up around me were like, Geet, oh, Geet jaisa ban, like, you know?
Yeah.
Three
It
Idiots.
shows you the power of art and pop culture.
Is that-
It's really that powerful. Because it shapes our minds. And it's what you're most exposed to.
Right. Three Idiots changed the landscape of education. It added something beyond the word success,
100%.
which was excellence. And then people were suddenly like, excellent hona hai, ab successful nahi hona. And you know, it's not just that. Now when I look back in hindsight, Om Shanti Om mein Shah Rukh Khan having six packs, Dostana mein there being allusions to homosexuality, all of those things on a mass level were normalizing those concepts for India.
100%.
India did not have a six-pack ab concept until Shah Rukh Khan sported that in Om Shanti Om,
Yeah.
right? Or for that matter, which is six-pack is not it, but it's physical
No, I
fitness.
understand what you're
You know what I
saying.
mean?
Yeah,
People
yeah.
started to go to gym after they were like, oh, six-pack abs banane hai,
Shahrukh
right?
jaise banna hai. And see, then it can also become problematic. Like when Kabir Singh came out, that's a whole other
Right.
situation because it can become then it normalizes certain kinds of problematic behavior, right?
Hey, I've been compared to Kabir Singh.
Yeah.
I've never seen it, but I've been compared to Kabir Singh on a date. Do you think it's a valid comparison?
No. Have you seen the film? I just saw it recently.
I haven't
I
seen the
made a
film.
reaction video to it with a couple of my like friends from here because we were so pissed off. Please
Really?
don't ever like be happy about that
No,
comparison.
I'm not.
That's
I'm
like
asking
the
you.
worst
Oh my God.
comparison.
I'm
Be
asking
happy
you.
about- No.
Acha, nahi, nahi. Fir theek
No.
hai. Because I don't know why someone said that. They were like, you are a lot like Kabir Singh. And I was like, wo kya hai? And they were like, it's a movie. I was like, I've never seen the movie. So I just did not know. Apparently it's a violent movie.
Yes.
Okay, okay.
Do not.
No violence, guys. No
Do
violence.
not. Oh my God, no.
She's scared. What's the weirdest date experience you've been on? When was the last time you were on a date?
It's been a long time. When you're in a relationship, do you go on dates? Yes, you do. But,
No, I mean like a first date kind of situation.
6.5 years ago.
Are you out of practice, you'd say?
No. Because I meet people all the time.
Uh-huh.
And obviously dates are different because sometimes there's a different undertone. But I believe in like, when I say, I don't mean it or whatever, I believe in like dating your friends in the sense, what is dating? Like going on a date. I'm not dating somebody. What was going on a date? Having an experience. This is a fun experience. We're in an outdoor situation. We're having food, like whatever. You are calling it a date, right? Even though it has no romantic undertone.
Are you friend zoning me already?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Go on,
So
go.
that's the point, right? It has no romantic undertone. It has nothing. but it's still a date.
Right.
The idea is like you can take yourself out on a date. So by that logic, I don't feel, and because even when I was in a relationship, like I would sometimes take my partner out on a date and then like take a friend, as in, like I remember this one time we'd gone to do this improv thing. I took my friend and then I took another friend of mine and she loved it after. And it was like fun, right? It's like the
Right.
same experience you would take.
No, I'm asking specifically about, you know, traditional dates, like a romantic setup. When was the last time you were exposed to that? Would that make you nervous now because it's been so long? That is my more
I don't
specific
think it would
question.
make me nervous now because
No?
I don't think that I'm like I'm very comfortable talking to most people. So that side wouldn't make me nervous. But
Sure.
being romantic with a stranger, it would make me very nervous. Just because I've been with someone for so long, right?
I can imagine, dude. Like,
And also, like at this point, like very frankly, being on a dating app in India for me will be a very bizarre experience because you know,
yeah,
there's a
bro, you
lot
can't
of,
be on dating
I
app.
cannot be on a
No.
dating app in India. You
No.
know that, right?
Your dating app's the blue tick, and all the other blue tick boys. So, like, this is a very valid question.
Yeah.
From the video you made about your breakup, did you get more hate or more rishtas?
More rishtas.
Because I'm sure, like,
I
dudes
got a-
started ending up in your DM.
No, but I got a lot of people reaching out about their own stories.
अच्छा.
And
वो तो चल wholesome बात हो गई, but
हाँ.
like,
नहीं, but like to the point in the tens of thousands of DMs.
अच्छा, tens of thousands of DMs. But like वो blue tick वाले लड़के लौंडे नहीं आए. Because like I'm imagining, this is what I'm imagining. An attractive woman in the Indian YouTube space who's popular, which is dominated by men, discloses her breakup. I would imagine your inbox be flooded by dudes.
No, because I think people would realize that's not their way to shoot their shot with the whole situation, which is smart on them. I did see behavior of some people around me change, which I was just like, "Arey bhaiya."
They've opened a
Abhi
door in their
nahi,
head. They're like, अच्छा
abhi
ये
nahi,
possibility है.
please.
Right.
But no, which I'm actually really happy about. And you got like random londe being,
हाँ, random लौंडे दीदी क्या हाल है?
not even Didi kya haal hai, because they know I like
Simping
Didi.
pill, हाँ.
Nay, random londe being like, literally, I want you to sit on my face.
Oh
And
my
so-
god!
people like
अच्छा
love
ठीक है,
on
इनको
the
फिर हम
internet are
इसको हम
like-
सिंपिंग नहीं कहते, इसको हम क्रीपिंग कहते हैं. ये क्रीपिंग वाली सिचुएशन है. अच्छा.
People are crazy.
Yeah, dude. But I mean, purely from a sample इकट्ठा करने का standpoint, lucky for you, it did not happen. But I would expect so much face to be shown suddenly after somebody discloses they're broken up. At least यहाँ पे. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong about it.
I was very pleasantly surprised that that wasn't the case. Because I think people recognized that that's like, I don't know.
Hey, what
There
has your
were-
experience been with that? Like, this is you found yourself dead in the middle of shit you did not plan you'd be in the middle of.
No, I didn't.
And it's been like I would say it's been a brutalish month.
It's been a very interesting time.
Yeah. What do you
Yeah.
think about it?
I think that everyone is entitled to their own
But
opinion.
that's script.
What?
That's what you would say on the camera. Fuck it, I'll remove this, but I'm genuinely curious.
What? Okay, if I'm being very honest with you, it was hard as fuck. Because I've been memed before. I've been whatever. I talk about sex education on the internet. No shit, I've been memed before. But that's about like the things that we're talking about. This was people who don't know anything attacking your personhood in a way that they have zero information. Making up rumors on the internet. People are like, she's sponsoring hair oil in her video. कहाँ से? कौन सा hair oil?
तेरे उस वीडियो में hair oil कहाँ है?
नहीं है.
अच्छा.
But someone's spreading rumors, so people are coming and being like, this bitch has hair oil in her video. Who does she think she is? I'm like, bro.
What the
don't-
fuck?
Yeah, people are, because they're getting their information from memes, which is, as you know, that's not your primary source. Most people who are even commenting crap haven't even watched the video. They've watched a reaction to a roast of a something, so they're basing it off of conjecture.
I've
I'm
been
like,
through that.
if you want, I know, like if you want to have an opinion, at least dekh to lo.
Right.
Right? And again, everyone's gonna have their opinions either way. That's
Right.
also fine. But what's so interesting is, during that time, there was actually a lot of people tagging me in this video, tagging me in all their videos, but there was this one video of this guy who was talking about a breakup on the internet. And
Is there any way we can have this conversation a little bit further away, please? Thank you.
this guy was talking about his breakup, and he was like really coming for his ex. And you looked at all the comments. This was like went viral on Instagram and all these other places. All the comments were like, "Oh my God, a man talking about his feelings. How revolutionary. How this. How that." And like praising him for being a fucking king, Chad, whatever. What happened to me? They called me a roti hui. For I said nothing about my partner. Nothing. If anything, I was like, do not say anything hateful toward them. I knew if I didn't say anything, had I just put out a statement ki like ye hua hai breakup, he would have been attacked. If anything, now people are like all these like
Love
honestly
messages to him.
butthurt boys are like, he is a giga chad inspiration to Indian boys for leaving unloyal hoes, and I'm like, what?
You are so easy to attack, dude. If I had to make a video on you, it would take nothing. It would take nothing.
Sure.
You are at the pinnacle of privilege. Anything that looks from below to above is so easy to attack.
Yeah. I understand. And what I realized about the internet is, you're a woman, you don't have an opinion. You have an opinion on the internet. Literally, people are commenting, not on just mine, anywhere. Woman detected, opinion rejected. Like that's a very common comment people do.
Yeah.
So when you are a woman on the internet who has a voice, you suddenly are dehumanized. People sense a sense of privilege, even more dehumanized. Because I saw it in a lot of the people like, "Arey, ye accent marti hai, ye wo."
Right.
Okay, dude. You were born somewhere, you have an accent. I was born somewhere, I have that accent. Like, big deal, move on.
Right.
Right?
Which is a very silly point overall.
Whatever. It doesn't matter. ये बंदी हार्वर्ड गई हो अभी मैं हार्वर्ड को पसंद नहीं करता अगर ऐसे बंदी आ जाती हैं यहाँ पे okay मेरा क्या लेन देन है don't like the institution I'm like if you wanted to just hate Harvard there's enough other people who've gone there before me who
Right.
also I don't know what I'm doing I'm just playing with
All the anxiety, guys, all the anxiety. I get it, dude. No, it's like, but
no it was just okay to be very honest this whole situation I don't even have a problem with the roasters I do
right.
but in some degree I understand that they're doing their job. People have made their YouTube channels off of like reacting to this. It's the kinds of audiences they attract who are not who dehumanize people,
Right.
And so many people as a person, we've talked about this before, the keyboard warriors, they say shit to you they would never say to your face.
Never, because
Never.
they get punched.
Yeah, or
Yep.
whatever, right? That's all fine. And I have been a creator for a little bit, so I can even take it. What happens to somebody else who's sharing their emotions on the internet or sharing like a piece of vulnerability or anything, and you come at them with rape threats, you come at them with death threats, you come at them with all of this fucked up nonsense? Are you going to be held accountable if they actually
No,
take
no,
action
that
towards
they'll
something?
separate very quickly themselves from. What I've learned about public theatre on YouTube when it comes to this kind of situation is
Yeah.
people give each other verbal ammunition. So I have lost faith in that element of the whole thing. However, there is a certain few things to be said about, like, I'm curious, okay? Ye chat audience, this is something I'm asking you as well because I did not get it and I had to change that in my response.
Yeah.
We were the two most controversial people on YouTube for a brief amount of time, right? So after your video and Samay's comment on that
I
video,
don't understand why. I'm like, bro,
चल तेरा तो unchosen था तेरा तो unchosen था मेरा भी unchosen था but I was more like चल fight करते हैं but you were like whatever right so in that limited way a lot of people went ham at you for
Yeah.
running ads and I don't understand that bit because एक तो वैसे YouTube से कौन सा पैसा बनता है किसी का
नहीं बनता है.
1 million view
Also, it wasn't even you know this, you have a channel.
हाँ.
You turn on monetization on your channel, what happens? All your videos get monetized.
बिल्कुल
And it wasn't even, I was not even
कि मैं रोऊंगी और पैसा
about-
कमाऊंगी हाँ कौन कहता है ऐसे यार कि मैं रोऊंगा और पैसा कमाऊंगा वो 20,000 रुपए कौन कमाएगा रो के यार
also-
She make मतलब I would expect you would charge anywhere between 1 and 3 lakh rupees for an integration on your Instagram. Why would you worry about 20,000 rupees from crying? That makes no sense to me. So and that bothers me particularly because I had to be so soft steppy around like oh ads na chal jaye mere video pe
Yeah.
and then YouTube started pushing ads once it got
It
famous.
anyway does
It
that.
anyway does that.
And what people don't realize is, it's like people are like, I've seen 5 ads in this. I have not done that.
मेरे को तो
It's
पैसा भी नहीं
the-
मिल रहा
it's
उसका।
the- Exactly.
हाँ अब तो मेरी बेइज्जती हो गई मैं रो भी ली फिर मेरे को पैसा भी नहीं मिल रहा और तुम गाली भी दे रहे हो साले तो मैं तो हर तरफ से हार गया हाँ I know what you mean that is
And
I
also-
don't get
no,
that
but
argument
even then, I released a song a couple weeks later. And my songs have always been about, like, last year I released songs about mental health, consent, things that are important. This was an important piece in my life, right? And the funniest thing is, this bitch is monetizing her breakup by making a song. And it's so interesting to see in the comments, people are like, do you not understand what artists do? Like, what do artists do? How
Yeah.
do you make money?
Bro तुम्हारी जिंदगी में तुम्हारे beyond भी your voice is affecting people in a very positive
It
way
is, which is why I realized, like you said, tens of thousands of people who are reaching out with their own stories of divorce, grief, heartbreak, yevo. It was just like,
Wow. Always. Look, this is a non-romantic date to attract other romantic partners. No, but see, that's the. It's like, bro, हम क्या बात कर रहे थे?
हम बात कर रहे थे कि it goes beyond you after a certain point.
Yeah, right. It does go
Right?
beyond you. और मेरे को तो कोई interest भी नहीं था यार. मैं तो like I was just asking for justice. And as much as I could see, you were just trying to express yourself.
Yes.
if anybody has gone through a painful breakup, even if they disagree with the fact that Avanti made that video,
Sure.
they can relate to the pain that one goes through.
And a lot of people, 6 saal ka pain is very different.
Huge, dude. I've been through a 4-year breakup, a 2-year breakup. Like I've spent time grieving.
Yeah.
Grief is a very complex emotion.
It's a very
and
complex
it's not shown on the internet often enough.
Oh, you know what?
Unless it's doctored, huh?
Unless it's doctored, but it is shown on the internet. That's
How?
the point. A lot of people globally have talked about their grief, have talked about, and you see, because I know what helped me through. When I was going through this shit first, I put this video out 6 weeks later, which is why I had time to edit it thoda sa, right?
Huh.
It was not like I was like,
तूने
okay.
background music क्यों डाला Avanti?
क्योंकि-
I'm joking यार, relax करिए तो serious answer देने लग गई भाई.
Oh God. It would been like,
It
आपकी
would have been
वीडियो में
something else.
शाबाश क्यों आ रहे
कट
हैं?
क्यों आ रहे हैं? तुमने रोते हुए कट क्यों किए? वो तो-
Exactly.
Look, people made up their mind that they were going to go after you. after a
It's
point.
fine. It's
Yeah,
fine. At
yeah.
this point, I realized, okay, whatever. You need a scapegoat. You need drama. Just go for it. I have to be out of body for this because otherwise, in this world, I've learned you have to separate the person from the persona. And that's what I had to explain to my parents, and that's what I had to explain to my closest people because they were getting affected.
Yes.
No
This is
shit,
public
they were getting
theatre, dude.
affected.
This is public theatre,
But
huh?
imagine a parent is so concerned for their child.
Right.
And my mom was so concerned, and I get it, right?
I
And
know
had to
exactly what you
And I
mean.
had to explain to her, ki, this is the persona, and that's what they're attacking. They don't know who I am.
Right.
I share a lot. I feel like for me, I try my best to be similar how I am in person. And you've met me now a couple times in person, and you've probably seen
You're as chirpy as you're on your...
Whatever,
Maybe a little
or-
less, yeah. But roughly
whatever.
around
Like,
the range.
you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
in general, like some people, as artists, like you have a Lady Gaga, you have a Divine, you have people who have stage names, and you have a persona. I'm like, मैं बनती हूँ stage के ऊपर, stage के बाहर, anywhere, right? And it's just like when you realize it goes beyond you, there's nothing you can do about it. There's absolutely nothing you can do about it. And what I realized, I'm like, you know what? If this is impacting someone, and you know the number of people in the last few weeks who have reached out to me being like, you know what? I first saw your memes, I thought you were this, I thought you were that, but I just went through a breakup and I cannot thank you enough for what you shared. Because for some people, like when you're going through shit alone and you don't feel like you're validated, where do you turn?
Yeah.
What helped me, I listened to a lot of music. I spent time with a lot of people, and I watched videos of people who had gone through grief and heartbreak. There's a lot of, whether it's YouTubers or people who've talked about it, so much of that content out there, and that's what helped me through.
Very interesting.
And
I've never seen anything, by the way.
No, so no, it's not even the West, like globally, people talk about this shit all the time. But in India, it has not happened in
मैं
that
बताऊं
same
क्यों?
way.
I'll tell you why. This is something very interesting. ठीक है? मैं पता नहीं कहाँ था. I was somewhere traveling with some friend, some woman friend of mine, and her mom was saying something about why don't you have a boyfriend? And it fucking flipped the shit out of me.
Yeah.
Because I was like, even if my parents are fairly progressive, I will never have them come to me and be like, why don't you have a girlfriend? As if like I'm letting someone down.
Yeah.
Right? It's like, why didn't you get into IIT wala tone?
Or
But-
like, तेरी शादी क्यों नहीं हो रही है? But not why will you have a girlfriend?
right. So because हमारे यहाँ पे the idea that you can choose somebody for yourself and that could be a valid choice that can come without fighting, that can come as a natural consequence in the way the rest of the world operates. Heartbreaks are not sincere. Like even when my parents have tried to help me with heartbreaks, and I've had some very tragic heartbreaks. Probably shouldn't say that, but I've had some extremely complicated heartbreaks where I needed somebody bigger and more mature than myself.
Yeah.
And I tend to be on the mature side of shit. They haven't been able to be as thorough
And I
because they
get
have
it.
more tools for that.
I get it. I felt similarly. I had a lot of support systems, but when all this shit went on the internet, a lot of my friends who are not in this world, they were there, but they don't know how to support me.
No.
It's a very unique experience being attacked in that way.
Right.
And then my support system for the last 6 years was gone.
Yeah, I can imagine, dude. That must have been so tough.
Gone. And the reason for a lot of this, right? And so it was a lot. It was a lot to deal with.
Let me ask you something.
Yeah.
You commenting on each of those videos, was that a way of quickly trying to douse the fire that they could have spread? Like, why did you comment? Was this admission of guilt? What was happening there?
No admission of guilt.
Huh, I
You want
mean-
to know something?
Huh.
Every single one of these videos,
Huh.
people think I went and tried to look for them. No, I got tagged in them day in, day out, day in, day out. I couldn't fucking ignore them, right? So I'm like, okay, let me go and see this. And then if I did, like, when I saw, what's this?
Did any of them make
Lakshay's
you
video.
cry?
No, none of them made me cry. But I'm just like, you are doing this with such limited information, and it's fine. You're doing this for your own whatever. When I first saw Lakshay's video, there's a lot I didn't agree with. So I literally said, like, I disagree with a lot of what you said, but I genuinely respected that he was fairly respectful about it. In fact, most of them were like, they could have done much worse. And that's not an excuse. That's not like, you could have done worse, so I'm happy that you have done the bare minimum. No. But
I'm relieved.
I'm
Right.
relieved in some way. And I saw the first few I commented. After that, I stopped commenting because at that point, I also didn't give a shit. You want to make videos, do whatever. You know, but it's your first time dealing with something like that. So no shit, you're going to be like, okay, what is this? What is going on? And I couldn't ignore them. It's not like I went out and searched Avanti Nagral roast or whatever it was. It's because I was getting tagged in them constantly. Even a lot of the roasters were blind tagging me in their stories about this video. So people want attention.
Dude, more than that, like this carries over to the outside world. I don't know if you've seen that in public.
It fucks with you.
उनके लिए हम cartoon है, ठीक है?
हाँ.
For people, we are cartoons who do gladiator fights on YouTube.
हाँ.
They don't realize how this carries over to the real world at all.
It does. And it's really, in some sense, I'm grateful, but I shouldn't be grateful that, oh, at least I didn't get that many death threats or this thing, because of course I'd be fucking scared for my own safety, my family's safety, everything. I realized, usually when I'm out somewhere in Bombay, someone or the other will come and say hello or whatever, which is
Will
really...
it be a nice hello or an ugly hello?
No, really,
Okay,
like
always
in
nice.
general, it's
Right.
always really, a lot of our audience in our community is very young, very
Yeah, yeah.
like really supportive, right? So it's amazing. And as an artist, that's what you want. The few days I stepped out after this situation, when I went to creator events, everything was chill because everyone was there. And the number of creators who pulled me aside at these events and were like, Mera bhi heartbreak chal raha hai, ye wo. I am like, I will not say this publicly, but I'm so fucking proud of you. I'm like, okay. If I tell you the number and then types
Give me a number.
of...
Plus 10?
Yeah,
Easily.
easily.
Plus 20?
Yes.
And you're talking top tier creators.
Yes.
Top tier
And
creators.
many men.
Mostly men. Or mostly women.
Mostly men.
Men have to deal with that pain in silence so often.
They don't, but they shouldn't have to.
No, they shouldn't have to. But they kind of
No,
have
but
to.
that's my point, right? No, they don't have to.
I'll tell you. Tell me.
I mean, a lot of women also, but the women were more forthright about it,
Sure.
right? These men would just like pull me aside at these things and be like,
And it's not just like, I didn't mean men have to do that, but very often men end up in positions where they're the leader of, say, a family or an organization. And in those cases, all the pain becomes private because you cannot share. If I go up to Ash and be like, Ash, maybe we don't know what the fuck we're going to do with all of this. We don't know, like, he's going to lose hope too.
I mean,
He's
I
going to
understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
I just don't think it's a gendered thing anymore.
No, definitely not.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
not saying gendered in that sense. Maybe a better way to phrase that in our times as we are transitioning away is it's a more masculine thing. Like when you're more in your masculine. Even as a woman, you can be more in your masculine. Maybe it's not. The point is when you're taking the ultimate
No,
charge.
when you're someone who has a sense of responsibility to people around you, you have a team, I have a team, you have a family,
Right.
whatever, then yes.
Yeah. It
And
becomes
I
extremely
agree.
difficult.
It
Yep.
becomes extremely difficult, right?
Yep.
And
Like, I wish I was not in
went,
that place.
I went to dinner with my family, my parents and my younger brother, to celebrate something for my brother. And everyone under 30 in that restaurant was staring at me in a way that was different. In the past, it's been like, oh, I recognize her, or maybe I should go take a photo, ye wo. That's her. Wo bandi hai. Secretly taking photos. I can hear them being like, she's not crying. Is she okay? Like, some of it's coming from concern, but some of it's coming from, I want the fucking drama.
Some of it's coming from just not having enough drama in their own lives.
And I'm just like, what is going on? And a few days later, I left for the US, which was pre-planned. I mean, like this
Right,
tour
right,
and
was
stuff. I
happening, yeah.
had these shows scheduled. Right.
Right.
I'm so grateful. Because when I came to New York, no one gives a
No one
fuck
gives a
who you
fuck.
are. So the few times I was like around NYU or in the subway and someone stopped me, I was so triggered and caught off guard. It was mostly like international students who were like really happy to say hi, right?
Yeah.
But I was like, what the fuck? Because I had become so triggered. Now it's been a few weeks. I've been out of that physical space. So now when I'm going back next week, I will be fine.
Right.
No, but like, I haven't shared this, but I had a breakdown at the airport, okay, on the way here for multiple reasons. Personal, a lot was triggering me at the time, and there was so much else going on in my life while all of this was happening. First, I was going through a fucking breakup of 6 years. Then this public nonsense was happening. Then I was having some professional difficulties. And I don't talk as publicly about a lot of health things that I deal with because
It's nobody's concern but
it's no
yours.
one's concerned, but there was a lot going on at that moment. And something triggered me that I like broke down at the airport, and then I basically had a panic attack because I'm like, I cannot break down here. This is a public place. And normally I would not give a shit if people saw me, recognized me, and I was crying, but that's literally the reason they were roasting me on the internet. And I was like, fuck. And so, luckily, it was like 11:30 p.m., but my therapist was awake, and luckily I have fucking access to therapy. I called her, she gave me a few techniques to calm me down. And I was right, people did recognize me. And some sent me sweet messages like, oh my god, I saw you crying, are you okay? Or I saw your pink nails, or some shit, right? Whatever they sent. It was like really, really...
I saw your pink nails.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Stop looking at her feet, guys. Huh.
But like whatever it was, right? I should not have to live, like we should not have to live a life where you're constantly like, what the fuck? To me, the hardest part of whatever we've decided to do this path in life is you have to be on all the time.
What?
And I know that as a performer, of course I have to be on all the time. When I'm on stage, I better fucking deliver and be on all the time.
Right.
But I feel like I have to be more on off stage now, more on everywhere I go, because I also recognize that that is someone's first impression of me, right? And generally I'm a positive person, generally I like try to be kind.
But you deserve your own time.
You deserve your own time, and if I'm having a shitty ass day, that I don't want that to bleed into my interaction with someone, right? Because someone's coming up out of the kindness of their heart and being like, oh my god, I respect you, I like whatever that might be, like I'm a fan, blah blah blah. So, as much kindness, but you have to be on.
Right.
All the fucking time.
No, I agree. I've had very little experience because most of the time I spent in India when I was getting whatever amount of popular was COVID. So there was no stepping out. I remember going to Goa, and that was the first interaction. This was December 2020. December 2020, I'd gotten significantly whatever. And it was so difficult. I was talking to this girl. When you go to Goa, you talk to girls. I'm talking to this girl, and this dude randomly comes like, "You're Prakhar ke pravachan, no?" And it helps in some parts, but very like when it starts happening repetitively, you're trying to talk to people. Some guy came up to me at 3 a.m. He's like, "Hi, my name is this. I know you from your content." I was like, "Hi, bro. How are you?"
Yeah.
And then he was like, "Nice to meet you." I was like, "Nice to meet you." He went away, said this loudly enough under his breath. He's like, "Kaisa kutta hai? Naam bhi nahi pucha mera." Using the word kutta, he was using a different word. But I'm like, अबे भाई 3 बज रहे हैं रात के, मैं अभी लैंड किया हूँ, मैं थका हुआ हूँ, अब तेरे से तेरा नाम ही पूछता रहूँ. So I know this bit.
No, I mean, yeah.
But it's not fame. Look, I don't mind that. Of course, this is going to happen. This is the cost of our choices.
I'm really grateful, right? And the
Right.
fact that someone even like that, that's why I always ask someone's name.
Agreed.
I always ask. And people are caught off guard. So
Right.
I've had situations where someone will come up and be like, photo. And I'll be like, hey, what's your name?
Right.
They're not expecting that. And they'll be like, photo.
Huh.
And I'm like, hey.
And you know the beautiful
I'm
part
also
is-
human. So are you.
No, Avanti, the beautiful part is when you do that, when you're like photo, haath milao, like I would have people sit down and talk to me about shit, right?
exactly.
They find you so humble, which is, aisa nahi, that's not the case. But you're
That's
right.
being human.
It's your
That's
first
not
interaction,
even, yeah.
and they already expect you to be like this conceptual, like semi-famous, like, oh, I'm the shit kind. Like, none of that. The problem is not fame. Fame is what we chose. The problem is scrutiny. And that's a different kind of fame.
Yeah.
And that happens when you go in opposition of someone.
Yeah.
That I experienced in my own limited way, and where everything you do is seen through the lens of that.
Yeah.
Right? Like,
And now, if I have any male specimen on any of my social media,
It's always going to be
they're
that.
getting bombarded like crazy.
Right.
I was hanging out with a friend of mine, and I posted some story with him. The number of clicks he got was insane. I was like, what is going on? I was like, he's a chota
You have the
banda.
unique ability to make another man very
What the
famous,
heck?
but only one man. You have to choose that man, and if you decide what reel you'll make with him, he's
Oh
going to get 5,000 new
God.
followers in a second
Oh
and a half.
God.
Dude, that's power. We don't have this power. We can't make men famous anymore.
Oh God.
Huh.
I'm like, wow, people really are interested. I get it, right?
Yeah.
I get it because I've been interested in like celebrities' lives or whatever. Honestly, not really, but like.
But celebrity
You know.
gossip is a section in the newspaper
It's
that's
a
very
section in
popular.
the newspaper,
Yeah,
right? That's why you read the Bombay Times, you read
And
whatever,
we are like
right?
cheap celebrities. We are like celebrities who have to work every day to be marginally famous. So we are the perfect candidates. We are desperate. We'll do whatever it takes, right?
And then you can have more scrutiny because you feel like you know them personally in a way
Right.
that you wouldn't know a Bollywood celebrity or whatever, right?
Right. And somebody, I think Shweta pointed this out to me, or somebody, I don't know. But they said what really happens is, and he was pointing, I think he said, I don't know. He said when you, as a YouTuber, whatever, when you
Yeah.
cross a certain threshold, the same people who like you start hating you because now you're no longer one of them.
Yeah.
So our position, this entire universe.
You're not their little secret anymore that like, you know, they're like, apna banda, apni bandi. Now you're like, hey, everybody is whatever, you know?
Right. The larger point is,
the heck?
hum hai kaun, society hasn't really defined.
No.
Celebrities have existed forever. We are not celebrities,
No.
clearly. Okay, normal people have existed forever. We are somewhat, we don't even have the privacy to be.
We are normal, but.
Right. Yeah, like in the
No,
sense,
no, I
like,
know what
you
you
know,
mean.
we are suspended in this like twilight zone where I feel we have to work so hard to maintain our relevance, or we get muddled out by competition real quick.
Yeah.
And it makes for such an like, it's great. I'm not complaining. I shouldn't be complaining. But sometimes it makes for extremely uncomfortable situations.
It just makes you realize that as a society.
Look at that. That's a cool ass plane. Sorry.
It just makes you realize that as a society, we need scapegoats. We need to be able to put our emotions in. Why do we like watching films, right? We like watching films because we want to be Geet. We want to be like Amir Khan's character. We want to be whatever, right? And now, in this weird world we feel like we have that in real life. Why do we like reality TV? We know it's scripted.
Right.
But it's like, oh my God, they're falling in love, like blah, blah, blah. And then you have this category of like YouTubers, influencers, like whatever the hell you want to call them, creators, blah, 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 blah.
I think we are the VJ equivalent
We're
of
just like-
of this age, right? याद है VJ होते थे, oh, VJ होना कितना cool है, अब influencer होना cool है.
Oh, wait, but whatever it is, it's weird because it's obviously some of it's scripted in the sense when you put together some of it. I mean, this is free-flowing conversation, right? So this is different. But like, if I make a video about education, yes, I have storyboarded and scripted stuff, right? If I make a song, no shit, I've put in hours of work into it. But it feels like it's like you know the person.
Yeah. It's a
And
parasocial
therefore
relationship.
you have ownership over them
Yeah.
in a really weird way.
Yeah. I think I learned from a friend who used to work in reality TV.
Yeah.
He told me they used to have this particular shot, particularly with women. The purpose of that shot was first make the woman cry somehow. And this is not a feminist rant, but make whoever cry, but if it's a woman crying, they'll pan into the tear and then slowly descend to her bosom. Because sex and sentiment together works nothing on reality TV. So,
Which is why, you know what's so fucked up? People were like, no, but it's
Dude,
true. Dude,
shit.
on my video, you know, a lot of people were like, she wore makeup and is crying. I was like, I was wearing no makeup that day, but that doesn't even matter, right? The point is like, oh, so you are trying. Essentially, people understand that this is what sells, and they think they're being extra smarky, like, oh, you're trying to cater to, and so you're trying to sell this to me. I'm like, I woke up the day after I was the most heartbroken I have felt in my life, and I turned on my camera and decided to record it. Whether you criticize the fact that I decided to do that, up to you. Understood. That's not everyone's coping mechanism. It was mine. Take it or leave it.
right,
Fine.
fuck it. Right.
But like the fact that you're like, she has blush on her cheek. No, my cheeks are fucking red like this all
I'm
the time.
pretty. Can you not see?
No, that's not what I literally have this
Fucking idiot.
condition. You know what I
You have a condition that makes you pretty?
No, it's like a skin sensitivity. Anyway, it doesn't matter. It's called rosacea.
For real?
Yeah, it's just like people have more redness in their face.
Is this what is like commonly known as rosy cheeks and whatever? Does it come somehow from this medical situation? You know, rosy cheeks used to be a big thing.
Yeah, I mean, that's why you have blush created for
Acha,
that.
acha.
It's why are rosy cheeks a big thing? Why are all these things a big thing? Because when we create beauty standards, we create them to infantilize women. Most of our makeup creates their eyes bigger, makes your cheeks look bigger, makes you look more like
That's a claim of pedophilia.
But it's fucking true.
You really think so?
Yeah.
Damn. That's a brutal.
Just
like
read
I
about
know.
just read about the beauty
I've
industry.
read some stuff about high heels and how that accentuates sexual features,
Yeah.
right? And so part of the job it accomplishes is like, and the lipstick making the lips red, which is also an accentuation. But I didn't know about infantilization. That's fucked up.
It is crazy.
Where does someone read up about that?
It's like
Is this stuff
literally Google beauty standards?
not at Harvard?
What?
This is not taught at Harvard.
No, aspects of it you see and you understand.
I was just joking, dude. I was just like, I'm so stunned that people at Harvard somehow still think they're cooler than people at Columbia. It makes no sense to me. Right, guys? Like, let's be real. How's Harvard like
Oh
though?
my gosh. I had an incredible time, but mostly because of the people, and I'm not being like, oh my god, it's the people.
No, but I'm assuming
genuinely,
even like as a university, it should be profound.
yes and no. When you study computer science anywhere, it's computer science anywhere.
तूने computer science पढ़ा है? नहीं ना, psychology and global health.
Psychology, global health, but I had classes in neuroscience, I had classes in like all of these things. Neuroscience anywhere is neuroscience anywhere.
Sure.
You know?
Neuroscience anywhere is wrong. But this is a dig I have with Sid Warrior. But my point is, yeah, give it to me. With thank you.
Thank you.
With तेरे को नहीं पीनी अपनी चाय? I got you tea.
Oh, thank you. थोड़ा
You sure?
ठंडा है, हाँ.
अच्छा, you don't want cold. अबे यार तुम भी आइस ले आए कोई नहीं
कोई बात नहीं
these guys made effort dude you have
No,
like
they did. Thank you so much.
you
You
guys
got
are awesome.
cheesecake. I am so happy. This is like my love.
no so what I was thinking of is like
Also, just a time check. I have to leave in like 5 minutes.
5 minutes
Ha.
5 minutes
7 minutes.
last 5 minutes okay last comment about Harvard I think there is something to be said about studying with the greats
Yes.
like I got some of the most brilliant professors
Same.
and the way that changes the ceiling of your imagination
100%. It sometimes removes the ceiling.
yeah
You know the whole quote, "The sky is the limit."
Yes.
I think it's a bullshit quote. I'll tell you why. And I've seen this particularly. It's not a gender thing, but I've seen this particularly with women. Were you ever told as a young boy that think of a career that's flexible so you can support a family one day?
no I was told do CA
Most young women are told this.
oh yeah of
Think
course
about your future family.
Right,
and
right.
थोड़ा like ambition को कम कर लो.
बिल्कुल बिल्कुल
Why the
बिल्कुल
fuck isn't I? Also, I'm abusing so much. I don't usually abuse this much.
सारे
and
fuck
this is
कोई भी
what, like-
बीप हुआ ना एडिट में मैं देख लूंगा हाँ
I like.
Avanti Nagral abuses for 1 hour straight. Avanti Nagral abuses Lakshya Chaudhary for 1 hour straight. क्या
No,
टाइटल
I
है ब्रो?
didn't. Oh God,
क्या
I did
टाइटल है?
not do that.
नहीं नहीं नहीं
please.
करूँगा यार. ऐसे नहीं करूँगा तेरे साथ अवंती छोड़ दूँगा तेरे को कोई बात नहीं. नहीं. But
नहीं,
tell me, you were
मैं
saying.
बोल रही थी. Why, as an 8-year-old woman, are you told this? It limits your dreams. It limits your imagination. It limits your ambition. I am a strong believer in. You should be able to dream as big as you want. Reach for the stars, whatever you think is. And at the very least, if you aim so high, if you dream so big, at the very least you'll fall among the clouds, right? If we're using sky analogies.
Right, right.
But if you say sky's the limit, you won't even go into the stratosphere. And we tend to be in positions where we limit our ambition. Now, obviously, certain situations make us. If you come from certain class privilege, you feel like you can dream bigger, and you don't come from, and you have to think about roti kapda makan as the daily essence of who you are. Of course, you're not going to have the same privilege to dream in a more like large way, right?
Right.
That's one thing.
Agreed.
But kids are kids everywhere, and why are we constantly putting these pressures on people around us to limit their ambition?
Oh, I have so many things to say about that. My point is that people have
Whose dog is it? I'm just concerned now because there's no one around it.
people have an insanely self-limiting mindset partly because of the way they are conditioned and
Yeah.
I know that because I deal with that problem the most of my DMs are about bro I cannot do this
Yeah.
and I have been in that place where I thought I could not do this and I tried and I'm
Yeah.
not saying I am like I just tried it was
Yeah.
just painful
Yeah.
but I tried
Of
and I
course.
got there and now I've come to realize probably this is just a naive moment as a 26-year-old I'm allowed to feel is that fuck this shit I'll dream of whatever and we'll at least give it a shot.
Exactly.
And I think that
नहीं
mindset
होता है, at least you fucking tried. Why am I saying this word so much today? This is your influence.
always ruin the
Oh
dates.
God.
Always bring people by and make them say stuff they would not regret. No, it's fine. It's
They
fine.
would not regret or they would regret.
How you guys doing?
Hi.
But okay, ठीक है. I'll let you go. You have a very busy schedule, Avanti.
Thank you.
I think I had so much fun making friends with you.
Likewise.
Yeah. This is, by
Thank
the
you
way,
for
not
the
coffee.
lovely
This is tea.
cheesecake.
Oh, I just realized. Huh?
That's good.
No problem at all. Huh?
You got 2 teas for her, a black tea and a green tea.
Acha,
Oh,
man.
that's so sweet. Thank you.
These guys put it
I
together, huh?
don't. I'm sorry. When it comes to drinks, मैं सिर्फ पानी गरम पानी पीती हूँ. I don't have caffeine.
बताओ यार ये कौन सा जीवन है यार? No शराब में no nothing.
Nothing.
Wow. But ठीक है, thank you so much, guys. This has been absolutely fun. Avanti, thank you so
Thank
much for
you,
doing this.
of course.
When I'm in Bombay, we'll hang out. Best of luck with the
100%.
rest of your travels.
Thank you.
Okay. That's a wrap. क्या गिर गया?
नहीं.
अवंती गिर गई? पूरी गिर गई खुद ही? है क्या बात कर रहे हो? मेरे को लगा चाय चुई गिरी होगी. यहाँ तो अवंती गिर गई. Okay.